Okay, so we yesterday did the purpose of human existence according to the Rambam, which is every creature has certain like activities, and he said that the human activity is cognition of ideas and truth, and the highest of which is knowledge of God, and all the other activities preserve a person's existence in order to so you can do that one activity. So that's the purpose of human existence. And at the end, he threw in the idea that there's also ethical perfection, right? And that was our question that we had, is that how exactly does that fit in? And we acknowledge that there are other Rambams that seem to give like other indications, but he's doesn't seem to be going into it here, and that's a little perplexing. All right. And then he also mentioned another thing we had a question about, which is he says that the person who, the idea is, the essence is to be, to quote Aristotle, nevonim tzadikim, people who are understanding and righteous. So if you are a chacham and a navon, but you pursue taivas, then that is bad. Or if you have ethical perfection, but you're ignorant, that's also bad. But he said that the first one, sorry, what did he say? He said so if you are detached from worldly desires and you only are involved in the physical enough to sustain your body, and you're involved in everything in the worldly things, in moderation, and you are accustomed in all the good midos, but you're not learned, you're also lacking perfection. But that guy is more perfected than the first guy, the guy who has intellectual perfection and no midos. Because these actions are not out of clear knowledge and fundamental recognition. That's the part that I'm not sure if I'm reading correctly. That's what they mean when they say that a boor cannot be sin-fearing, as we've explained. Again, if you say that an Amaretz could be a chassid, then that's just denying chazal and rationality. That's why you find in the Torah that you should learn and then do. Talmud brings you to action. Keep a Talmud yavo lidei ma'aseh ve'ena ma'aseh mevi lidei Talmud. So I'm getting contradictory implications here about who's better. I don't know that. All right, fine. So I wanted to read it just to see what would happen if something clicked.
Maybe saying learning brings you to action, which shows that action is the actual.
Right. That could be right. I mean, that guy has the end, even though he's lacking the means.
Yeah.
Right. And the other guy just has the means. Yeah. The fun problem with that, though, is that seems to go against what he said the purpose of man is. Right now we come full circle. Right. Yeah. All right. So there's still what to remain. To investigate. So let's finish it up today with his answer to the remaining question. Which
for the guy who has the intellectual.
Yeah.
Is that he? What was the word to be specifically for that?
So he said he is Misha Tanch. This is funny. See, he even talks about it in a funny way. Misha Tanshu Chacham, someone who claims to be a Chacham, Bismanshu over al divrei Torah v'rodef tavosav, at the same time when he's transgressing Torah and chasing his pleasures. So that's how he described him. So it sounds like he's saying you can't really be a Chacham, right?
Maybe somebody who learns but doesn't understand, so to speak.
Someone who learns and doesn't understand, right? Or whose learning is only in the realm of the theoretical and not in the realm of the practical. I think this warrants more investigation. But let's finish the treatise today, and so we'll repeat the question we said yesterday and the answer we said yesterday, and then we'll do the Rambams. There remains one question. Namely, Yesh Lamak Lomar, the objector could say, Atem Kvar Amartim Shalom Himsia HaChachma Ha'Elokis Shum Davar Lo B'Tali. You told us that that the divine wisdom does not produce anything in vain. And out of all the sublunar existences, man is the most exalted. The purpose of the human species is to grasp concepts. If so, why did God produce all these people who can't grasp any concepts, who don't grasp any concepts? Don't. They don't. We see the majority of the human species are void of knowledge and chase after taivas. And that was even more true in the Rambam's day than in our day, I think, in terms of like just the, now just like knowledge, basic levels of knowledge are just accessible, and literacy is much greater than it ever was in human history. And the person who is learned and separate from worldly desires is a wondrous rarity. You only find one every couple of generations. Yeah. So the answer you gave yesterday, which was good, is bechira, right? It's not that God created these proportions, as he created, human beings with bechira, and theoretically, people can choose correctly, and in the most Mashiach, we hold that the human species will choose correctly. I would give a similar answer, which is, I would say, statistics. Let's go with his example of fruit-bearing trees. That the purpose, the activity of fruit-bearing trees is to bear fruit. So let's take a strawberry, right? Strawberry has tons of seeds. How many of those seeds sprout into other strawberry, bushes? Very few, right? But you need the quantity in order to get you need the quantity in order to produce that one thing. So the odds are, and maybe this is kind of combined with your answer, the odds are with bechira that not that many people will get there, but you need a large sample population in order for individuals to flourish.
Could the question also be asking, why would God make it so that there are people who don't do this? Meaning, why wouldn't he just make it that everybody?
So it's a good question about if that's what he's asking, because the similar thing that I know of in the Rambam's writing is in the parak where he's talking about his theory about avodah zarah and korbanos. He does a reductio ad absurdum with that. He says you are going to object to my theory of korbanos and say, if God really wanted to, he should have just changed human nature to not crave avodah zarah. And I'll ask you, why didn't God just make human nature to obey Torah? God could have made us robots. And he says that line of reasoning is just absurd, given the fact that he did create us with free will. And so I feel like he's not saying it. He's not going that far. All right, so let's see his answer, and maybe we could reverse engineer understand his question. Hatshuva, the answer, he's going to give two answers, by the way. Shekol mitzius osam hanivraim l'shtei sibos. Here we go. Yeah, the existence of all these other people is for two reasons. Ha'achas l'sharis es oso hayachi. This is very elitist. The first one is to serve the individual. Okay, it's to serve the guy who did achieve his purpose. Ki ilu hayu kol b'nei adam lamdanim hamisfalsim. Because if all people were lamdanim and philosophers, okay. It's funny how it's a different description than the Nevonim Tzadikim, Lamdanim philosophers. I feel like that one resonates a little bit more with us. Haya ha'olam avad, the world would be destroyed. Okay, why? Haya ha'adam kulo mimenu bizman kater. The human species would perish in a short time. Lafi sheha'adam chaser ma'od zakuk l'dvarim rabim. Man is very needy. He needs lots of things. He would need to learn plowing and harvesting and threshing and grinding and cooking. And making the tools for all these things just in order to get food. He would need to learn sewing and weaving in order to make the garments that he wears. And buildings in order to build houses to have shelter. And he would need to make the tools for all those. The lifetime of Mesushlach would not be enough, he's the oldest guy, to learn all the malachos that man needs in order to sustain his existence. If so, when would that guy learn chachma and understand knowledge? Therefore, therefore, the existence of all these other people is to do the types of labor that the world needs. So now it turns out that the guy who is learned exists for himself. uvakach nivneh ha'olam nimtzeis ha'chachma. And then the world will be built up and chachma will be found. V'kama yafa piskam ha'omer ilmali hashotim ha'olam charav. How wonderful is the statement, I don't know what the source of this is, of the guy who said, were it not for the idiots, the world would be desolate. There's a quote that someone said, I don't know if this is from a shiur or in person, that like, I can't even quote it. I can't remember. Never mind. Ve'en lecha shtus gedola mizo she'adam chalosh hanefesh binyan gufo rofeith nosea mikatze ha'aklim hasheni ad katze hashishi. So what foolishness is greater than this? That a man who is weak of soul and has a frail body, I think the rofeith is a frail body, travels from one end of the climate to the other. I don't know exactly what you could throw the word meridian in there somewhere. But over b'yamim b'yamei hachoref, and he goes by sea during the winter times of midbaros, the share of Bekayitz, and he travels through deserts in the heat. And he endangers himself to get the food for the species, just so he can make a little profit. And then when he's collected enough of these coins that he's expended his whole spirit over, then he distributes them to craftsmen who will build for him a foundation, a strong foundation on which on virgin land to build with marble and stone. Very poetic, and there's a whole thing. So they can make a building that will last for hundreds of years. He knows for sure that he's not even going to live enough time to literally to wear out a building of, I forgot what guma is. Is there any like frivolity more severe than this? Right, so that's describing most people, right? It's like they spend their whole lives making money to build buildings that are going to outlast them, and meanwhile they're not developing their souls. All of the enjoyments of the world and all of its desires are like frivolity, absolute frivolity to build the world. That's why we call these people haaretz, meaning a person of the land. They were only created for the building up of the land. That's why they are ascribed to it. Okay, so that's answer number one, is that in order for the project to work, of a person to become a chacham, there needs to be a whole infrastructure, and all these people who, to the extent that they are not perfecting their souls, then they're building up the infrastructure. And it sounds like he's dividing the whole world into two categories. I think it is a spectrum, like there are definitely people, who are, involved in like farming, but they are doing learning to their capacity, so those people are existing for themselves in part, and then for the society as a whole. And then the further along you get, then the more you could say that the world exists for these people.
Doesn't this contradict his earlier point though? Because if everybody worked to fulfill their human purpose, then the world would be destroyed.
Right. So it sounds like he is saying, and maybe this is answering the question that I was alluding to with strawberry seeds, that like it is by design that there's going to be like a bell curve, or not bell curve exactly. I don't know what we call whatever. Whatever. There's going to be a statistical distribution that allows for the species to produce individuals that are like this, because otherwise you can't have those individuals. And you can't have a world where everyone is doing this. Yeah. And so these people do serve a purpose, but they're serving. It almost reminds me of like a Yisachar Zvulun type thing, where both of them are involved in learning, but Yisachar is the one who's more talented in learning, and Zvulun is more talented in business. So it's not like he neglects his own learning, but he supports Yisachar in order to produce maximum chachma in the world, and like his contribution to the worlds of chachma is through supporting the person who can learn.
It makes it seem like the earlier idea about man's purpose and all that means something more like man's purpose on the general level. But not each individual. Not individual,
correct. Yeah. It's almost like what he says about the whole dilemma of how can God say that Egypt is going to enslave us? Isn't that making them? Isn't that taking away their free will? And he says, no, each individual mitzvah has free will, but that doesn't eradicate the phenomenon of a trend. Yeah. Okay. V'shema yomar adam. Maybe a person will say, "V'halo anu roim adam tipesh uksil yesh lo nachas." What?
Oh, it's back.
Oh, okay. Thanks. I'll say it again in case it got cut out. V'shema yomar adam v'halo anu roim adam tipesh uksil yesh lo nachas b'olam eno yagea bo. V'acherim misharsim oso v'osim malachto u'pa'amim sha'osim malachto adam lumad. So maybe a person will say, we see a foolish guy who has tranquility in this world and he doesn't work at all, and others serve him and do his work, and sometimes it's even a person who is a learned man who serves this guy. So that sounds to be the opposite. But it's not what you think. The purpose of this fool is that he also serves the guy who is the goal of the creator, the creator's objective. Because of this foolish guy's pleasure and wealth and authority, this is often quoted. This guy will command that a palace be built, or building a great vineyard, like that the kings build for themselves, and people who are similar to them. And that palace will be ready for a chassid, who will come along in a much later time, on one day, and to take shelter in the shade of the walls of that palace. And that will save him from death. And he'll take, I don't know exactly what this process is, certain wine from those days in order to like provide something for someone who got bitten by some sort of like venomous thing, some sort of remedy. That is what God intended in his wisdom, that he made nature subordinate. Counsels from afar by the greatest of craftsmen. Chazal explained this. Amru sheben zoma haya yoshe b'harabais v'roya Yisrael olim v'omer baruch shebara kol elu l'shar seini. Okay, I hope you didn't hear his. No one heard him say that. But Zoma stood on Harabais when all of Yisrael was doing a little regal, presumably, and he said, "All of these people were created to serve me." Okay, because he was the top guy in his generation, and philosophically, all these people were serving him. I have a visual depiction of this. I just have to find it. There's a hold on a second. Okay, hold on just a second here. Is this going to be? I might not be able to find it. Okay, I'm not going to be able to find it. It's a great visual depiction, though. Hold on. Just try. Okay. I think it's here. Okay, so there's a pasuk in Koheles or two psukim that say, nope, this is not the, oh yeah. Hold on. Nope. Oh man. Is it here? I can't find it. Okay, fine. All right. All right. I'm not gonna try to say it even. Okay. Second answer. Okay. Masiba Shani, the second cause of other people who don't fulfill their purpose, the mitzius mish ein bo chachma, of the existence of someone who has not found chachma, who doesn't have chachma. Lefi shebali hachachma ma'atim od, is people who have chachma are very few. Shekach chayva hachachma halokis. That's what the divine wisdom dictates. Okay, so there he says it explicitly. The divine wisdom dictates this proportion. I guess that's implicit of what he said before, but now it's explicit. We don't say in everything that was necessitated by the original chachma, why did the chachma necessitate this? Just like we don't ask, why are there 9 spheres, 7 planets, and 4 elements? That's what was necessitated by the divine wisdom from the beginning of creation. So he says, I've seen the people who are like the top guys in the generation, and they are very few. If there are two of them, it's me and my son. Now here's his answer. Therefore, the hamon exists. Lios litzavos libnei aliyah. I think this means, okay, I don't know what lashon litzavos is. It means to be like companions for these people. Okay, to be like to provide company. Okay, he'll describe it. Maybe you'll think that this purpose is very like unimportant. Adraba, no. He yoser gedola min harishon. It's greater than the first one. Hello, tirish hakadosh baruch hu hishir es hakofrim ba'aretz lios litzavos. Yeah, I don't know what that word is. Lachasidim. V'hu amru yisrael v'yisrael lo agar shenu mipinecha b'shana echas penti ha'aretz shemema. This is a weird raya. God left the heretics in the land so that there should be litzavos for the Hasidim. That's when the Jews went in. He says, I'm not going to drive them out entirely quickly. I'll do it slowly, lest the land be desolate. Yeah, that's where he says it. So he says, Chazal say, what does it mean at the end of Koheles when it says Kizeh Kol Ha'adam? It means that the entire world was only created to provide companionship for this person. So it's a funny thing also. I mean, I would have said that this is automatically included in the first one, but I guess he's splitting it into like utility and like there's a certain societal need as well. Man's a social creature. So what emerges from all this is that the purpose of the entire world of coming to being and passing away is to produce a perfected person who encompasses chachma and action, as we've explained. Since the words of Chazal include these two things, chachma and maseh, based on what we've explained and what they've alluded to, then they correctly said the only thing God has in this world is 4 amos of halacha. Still is a funny statement. I mean, 4 amos of halacha doesn't, to me, point to these like ideas, Yeah, I don't even see any connection. Yeah, that's the end of his treatise there.
That's it?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. I mean, it was quite lengthy, but there's a lot of unanswered questions for us to work on.
Well, what was that last line again?
The last line is him just saying that you see the idea that I explained is all reflected perfectly in the statement that the only thing God has in his world is the 4 amos of halacha. I mean, I guess he's trying to say that, halacha is action and chachma, right? Like that's the perfect marriage of action and chachma.
Okay.
So the only thing God has in the world, meaning the only purpose of the world is this, and I don't know why it's 4 amos. Maybe 4 amos is considered like a person's personal space.
Yeah.
But like producing like one person, the individuals who are have this chachma.
Mm-hmm. Well, why is the friendship one greater than the other one?
Yeah, I don't understand that. I mean, I feel like if we had friendship but we didn't have like food and clothing, that would be a big.
Well, Maslow's hierarchy.
Yeah, right.
So friendship is higher than.
Mm-hmm. Right, you need the basic stuff for. I see what you mean. Meaning, it's not more fundamental, but it is a higher good.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, that would work out. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Right. Or he could mean that in terms of like actually using people, you're really interacting more with a person in terms of the friendship as opposed to getting your clothing. So in terms of answering the question of why do other people exist, here it's like a greater, more close need they're getting from the person themselves.
Right. So then it's really the products that they produce.
Correct. And truthfully, man could be a hunter and gatherer and and it would be inefficient without a lot of people, but you can get by without buildings and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. That was a fun journey. And that is the last Rambam Bekius year, not just for the year, but for the foreseeable future, because not next year, as far as I know, unless it's some other capacity. Yeah. I mean, look, I'm happy if you know anyone who wants a regular Rambam shir, if we can work it out, then that's good. Just not it's going to be in a different venue.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
I would personally be interested.
All right.
I like